Okay then, guys, so we're here week 2 Premier League predictions with the legend that is Adam P. We're here in the Jordi store. Now, last time we did this video, it was snowing. This time it's raining, absolutely horrendous outside, but it's fantastic inside. We're going to put some video on screen. Come in here for drinks, food, pre, post match. The place is amazing. Kitted out, fantastic. Highly recommend. So, quickly last week there's been massive chaos this weekend with the draw. Sunderland versus Newcastle, absolutely historic for the North East. I see you've been winding up Sunderland fans as well. So what was your thoughts on the derby, and how do you see it going as well while we're here?
Well, obviously before we get into any of the wind-up stuff, the derby itself is huge. It is big for both teams. I think when you look at it, a neutral point of view, I think Newcastle have so much more to lose than Sunderland, because let's say we're going to the derby, Newcastle just to batter Sunderland, let's say they win 3-0 or something. Sunderland fans have the excuse going, well, actually, a Champions League say one player in Newcastle squad costs more money than our entire team. It's not a fair situation. But the problem being is if Newcastle don't win the game, and that's where everything happens, because people, obviously we know Sunderland fans, people go to work with Sunderland fans, college, whatever it may be, you can't see around the opposition fans. So if you lose that game, you wouldn't hear the end of it. Honestly, it'll be the worst thing ever in any Newcastle point of view.
How likely is that to happen? Because Sunderland are kind of floating around. They're doing okay, not digging up any trees in the Championship this season, but they're all right. Is there any chance, do you think, or is the gulf just too big between Newcastle and Sunderland now?
Well, it will depend on the injury selection list, because at the minute, the Newcastle squads, I still think it's good enough to beat Sunderland, but in a positive point of view, you got like Callum Wilson, Botman, I would say, a couple of extra players coming in next month. Got quite a few long-term injuries, but there's a few short-term ones as well. So you would hope that a couple of them come back. However, do we pick up more injuries? Are we up any extra injuries in there? Is going to be any further issues? Now that's something we've got to worry about. So as long as you don't pick up any major ones like say Bruno, Trippier, Joe Linton, DeBragger, second goalkeeper now, as long as you don't pick up any bad ones in those areas, I think Newcastle should still be fine in the game. Of course, on the day itself, it's going to be so much raw emotion in it, and it will be, I mean, it's been so long, it will be a proper derby.
It'll be a fire cooker.
They'll kick the crap out of each other, they'll go into it, the horrible teams that go into it. It's going to be a nasty fixture on and off the pitch. So,
do you think they're more prepared for that battle than we are? Because all I'm thinking of is I know they've got a bit of a youthful sort of squad. Newcastle's got Joelinton, Bruno, a couple of people that don't mind a meaty challenge and stuff like that. Do you think maybe the Newcastle side are probably going to be more suited to that, even though it's obviously going to be at the Stadium of Light?
Well, I think even the new signings and the players that aren't from Newcastle are fully aware how big a game is. Remember, I think it was Jordi a year ago, so now like Bruno's playing FIFA and he's beating Sunderland, as if like Bruno knows who they are. So obviously they talk about it quite a lot in the dressing room. It's happened now. I think as soon as they got taught Eddie Howe, the players are straight away, the local lads like to dumb it, your long staff to be telling the players straight away how big of a game this is, and all the lads that aren't from Newcastle, they'll realise and they'll know that they're in for a tough time. No, I think they'll be up for it, and I think they know exactly what they're going into. You've got to think about it as well. Our away form hasn't been great, but still, like AC Milan, PSG, Manchester United, you still got a good results at tough grounds. I mean, horrible atmospheres where it's Newcastle, some of our biggest games in the past 20 years. I mean, these are huge occasions, so the players are used to these sort of situations. This one's going to be a tough one, of course, but you've got to be up for it. I think the Sunderland players feel it a bit as well. There'll be a lot of pressure on them to try and perform. But in our point of view, go out there and do your job, you'll be fine. I think as long as Newcastle play well, you'll get a result.
I mean, we'll probably touch on it nearer the time, because obviously we'll know better their injuries and stuff like that. But for me, even though I'm neutral and I do like to see Sunderland and Middlesbrough do well, I think the gulf is just too big. I think the fact that we're now Champions League and stuff like that, it's going to be no competition. I think form does go out the window a little bit when it's a derby. Like you say, it's going to be tough tackling and stuff like that. But I really see it 2-3-0 for Newcastle. But we'll see nearer the time with injuries and stuff like that. I would imagine both teams are going to have to go starting 11, full starting 11. Normally, the third round of a cup, you can see some rest and rotation. I think for this one, it's going to have to be, it's a cannot lose game. It's probably, arguably, the most important game of the season now for both teams. So amazing how that's just come out of nowhere for the North East as well. So we'll jump into how last week went first, but we'll just touch on the big important game this week for Newcastle as well. So Newcastle, fantastic result against Manchester United. We've now got Everton. Totally opposite sort of way. We've picked up another high intensity game. We're now going to this. We haven't got the players to rotate. How do you see this one going?
Well, I think it'll be Well, it's nothing like Sunderland, but it's a kind of Premier League game that has that somewhat feeling to it. I think Newcastle, Manchester United, and then you got Everton. I think Liverpool can kind of have that as well, where it's just that sense that there's a bit behind it. Everton's a team that hates Newcastle. They tend to, I don't know why, but they tend to really get on with the Sunderland fans. I don't know why that is, but Goodison Park's always a hell of a ground to go to. I remember after the match, I think especially Everton win, the fans always wait outside and always try to pick fights with Newcastle fans. Never a nice place. I know after the last season when they got pummeled 4-1 and got bowers quite heavily. But looking at this game, especially with the form this season, they've been quite a good team, Everton now. I know they've had their 10-point deduction, but even then, I know they'll be still a bottom half team, but they're actually a pretty good team.
They beat Forest last week as well, so did you see that one? A bit of a scrappy sort of match. It could have went either way. A lot of chances. Everton probably the better of the team. Is that enough to impress you going into this game that Everton might stand a chance?
Well, I think any away match for Newcastle, as I mentioned before, the away form hasn't been good. I think this one will be, even though they got a good result against City yesterday, I think this will be a harder game than Tottenham. I actually think how Tottenham playing, how open they are, I think Newcastle will enjoy that more. Mm-hmm. But this Everton one's kind of just there. So you got the Everton, Tottenham and the AC Milan trio in the space of 6 days. This Everton one, if it wasn't there, I think Newcastle will be okay, but the fact it's kind of just in the way, and it's a game that you look at and you got to be winning, but I think Newcastle have a hard time. I think they will. So it's going to be a tough game. I don't know what I think about it yet. It's going to be a lot to ask for, but the players have got to be up for it. We've got to be up for every single game now. There's no time to waste, and we've got to get the points on early. So games such as Sunderland, if we get further in the European competition, we've got to kind of then prioritise those games. The Chelsea and the Carabao Cup's a huge one as well. So it's about getting the Premier League points early so you can prioritise the other games and not have to, I guess, stress so much about where you're on the table.
So what score prediction, if we jump into the score prediction, we'll get this one done first. We've obviously got the rest of the Premier League predictions coming up next, but what scoreline are you giving this one?
I'm going to back a 2-1 Newcastle. Realistically, I'll probably say 1-1 or maybe even edging towards an Everton win as much as I don't want to say it. But of course, Mag's always back us to do well. I'm going to say 2-1, but I expect it to be a tight game, short on chances where whoever's most clinical will win the match.
I've went for 2-0 here. I think it'll be a bit more comfortable. Normally, I'm the pessimistic one, and I always think Newcastle, worst case scenario, but for this one, I've went for 2-0. So, Everton, I did watch the match against Forest. They didn't really convince us too much. I think they're missing that Dominic Calvert-Lewin. For me, he's the massive player. He's the biggest goal threat. They had a couple of chances, Everton, one off the goal line and another couple of key chances, but they just don't look as dangerous in front of goal with him. So, I think, considering how well Newcastle looked defensively the last couple of weeks, I think we'll see a clean sheet, and I think 2 goals. However they go, possibly Isaac. Gordon as well got another goal. He looks fantastic, and if he's fit, I know it's a bit of an injury doubt. If he's fit, I think that'll be a massive boost for Newcastle. So I went for 2-0 for that one. Right, okay then. So last week predictions. So I'll go through what we predicted then. So Arsenal Wolves. Now that ended 2-1. Now I went for a 3-1 win. I thought it'd be a little bit more convincing for Arsenal. So that's 1 point for me.
Back to 4-0 Arsenal. So I get 1 point as well. Not as convincing as I thought it would be, but we've still got to at least got the right scoreline, I guess.
Yeah, Wolves looking good this season. I know it's a loss, but still 2-1 Arsenal's not the worst result as well. So Brentford versus Luton. Now I went for 2-0 for this one, so 1 point for getting the right way around, but it ended up being 3-1 as well.
Well, I think I'm back to 1-1 for that one. So I thought Luton would get a result down there. It hasn't happened. Now with the Burnley one, which we've got onto a sec, that's going to put a lot of pressure on them. But I thought Luton wouldn't get a result in that game.
Yeah, the next one, I mean, we're hearing rumours this morning, so by the time this video goes out this afternoon, there might be a new manager change. I went for 1-0 Burnley. I did fancy Burnley, but 5-0. Obviously, the red card will play a big part in that, but 5-0 compared to your relegation opponent, they're the real ones for them. It's a bit of a drum in that one. Is their confidence going to go? Do they need this new manager boost to kind of help them out?
It's a sackable result, that one. I back 0-0 in the game. I thought there'd be nothing in it. Obviously, the red cards dictated the game quite a lot, but 5-0 is just shocking, really. It's a sackable offence, especially with how bad both teams have been.
Can a new manager coming into that team do anything, or is it a case of it's the squad you've got? I mean, I always feel personally bad whenever you see someone overperform and get someone up to the Premier League when you can tell they haven't got the players for it, and then they get sacked that season. Is that unrealistic to kind of sack someone? I mean, someone's going to come in with the same group of players until January. You'd imagine even in January they're not going to have a huge budget or whatever.
Well, you always feel bad for the manager, and I mean, brutally, no, I don't think the team is good enough, but you've got to change someone quickly. It's not going well at all, and obviously getting humiliated every single week at this point, you do have to change something. So even though I think it's harsh on manager, I probably have to agree with the change.
Yeah, and then next one was Nottingham Forest versus Everton. So I went 1-1 for this. It finished 1-0 Everton. It could have been my right result here. Nottingham Forest come close a couple of times, but Everton probably edged it a little bit. So 0-0 for me on that one.
I'm pretty sure I backed a draw as well. I would have backed someone against Everton. I thought in this game, I think Forest have been alright this season. I know Everton have not been the greatest away from home. So I'm thinking, well, actually, this game, they'll obviously get something. But I'll give Everton credit, good goal, and considering the pressure as well, it's on them to being able to get a good grindy result out.
That Beto who stepped in for the injured Dominic, so he missed a sitter as well. He's obviously coming into the Newcastle game. We'll predict the Everton score last, but how does he look as well? He's come in, big price tag, hasn't really hit the ground running. His first game in the Cup looked fantastic, and ever since then, in an Everton shirt, lukewarm, I would say.
I haven't watched enough Everton, to be honest. I couldn't really comment too much on Beto, but Dominic Calvert-Lewin is quite impressive, to be fair. So any player trying to, I guess, to be a replacement to him is always going to struggle, and especially in a team as well, that's quite few and far between chances you're going to have to take ones to get.
Well, if you haven't watched much of Everton, the next team we'll move on to, we know you definitely watch a lot of them, Newcastle. So Newcastle versus Manchester. So I went for a Newcastle win. 2-1 I went for, so I get the 1 point for that. It finished 1-0. For you?
I backed Newcastle to win 3-0, and I probably should have been, to be honest. I was confident Newcastle were going to batter Man U in the game, which we did.
Yep.
We dominated the play a lot, and I mean, Newcastle point of view, probably should have took some more chances, to be honest, because especially the fact that they scored right at the end, you're thinking, oh no, it's that goal is going to count. It's a horrible goal to give away, but no, Maguire's offside, and it wouldn't have deserved it at all. Yep. So in our point of view, we smashed them. Man United were rubbish, and Newcastle are just a much superior team to them. I just think we're miles ahead of them.
Does the manager worry you there that he could be up for the chop soon? I mean, on the other side of it as well, another injury for Newcastle with Nick Pope.
Oh, that was a nasty injury, Nick Pope, when I showed a dislocation. It looked horrible straight away. I knew he would need an operation, so he's going to miss potentially 4 or 5 months because of that. As well, trying to be that guy, at least if anyone's going to get injured, it is the goalkeeper, because he's got a decent amount of depth there, but that's a big miss, because I thought Pope had a good game, despite not really saving anything. I thought his distribution was much better, his kicking was good, and just when you think, oh God, he's finally kicking it right, he gets injured, so it's a tough one. How many games that are coming up as well.
Does it worry you, Dubravka? Because obviously there's rumours that we're going to try to go for an emergency keeper. So does it worry you the fact that Dubravka's maybe not able to fill Pope's boots? Or
I like Dubravka, honestly, I do. I think if you asked me that question a few weeks ago, I probably would have said yes. And I watched the Man U game in the Cup where you only had to save one proper shot, but you dealt with it well. I thought Newcastle's defence team with the B team done a good job, and I mean for us. I think it's good enough. I think even Karius as a third choice is okay. Like honestly, you wouldn't want to rely on a weekly basis, but I think he does a job. And I think for Newcastle, I don't think we need to sign a goalkeeper yet. I think we can ride it out with Dubravka. The only issue being is that if Dubravka picks up an injury, then at that point you look at that Karius, and if Gillespie's even in the 25-man squad at that point. So that's the tricky part.
Would you go for someone in January?
I think we've got bigger problems to worry about. I think there's so many issues in the pitch that I think a goalkeeper has to be a somewhat job for me.
Yeah, because I mean the rumours are as well. De Gea. It's shocking that he's without a club. Going from Man U, number 1 player, to not being able to get a club for many months, it seems a bit crazy.
It is, but he doesn't work for me. The problem with him being is his wage, which is why he doesn't have a club.
Yeah.
He's on 350 grand a week at Manchester United. He's probably in that position now as a goalkeeper where he's not going to accept an offer unless it's the exact same. He won't go away.
Plus, he's a free agent as well. So whenever we see a free agent, they always kind of barter and say, look, you haven't paid a 10 million, 20 million pound transfer, so I want more money wages. So more money for Newcastle if they went for it.
Yeah, exactly. And at the same time, you've got to think about it. Not even Saudi Arabia club won him for him. You've got to think as well, they're getting everyone.
They take everyone.
A free agent, someone of De Gea's, I guess, calibre and his recognition that they haven't even got him. So I think that says quite a lot when they're just chucking money at anyone, even like Jordan Henderson, they get mad contracts. So the fact I haven't got to her, I think says a lot about his actual contract as a free agent. Not worth that at all. And problem being when Newcastle happens with Nick Pope comes back, you're gonna have 2 major keepers on good wages. No, I don't think it's worth it. Yeah,
I'd agree. So next one then. So we've got Bournemouth versus Villa. Now that finished 2-2. Very good result by Bournemouth. Now I'd hand-pick Solanke as kind of someone that stands out for Bournemouth. Did very well. But I went for Villa 3-0. I thought it'd be an absolute cruising win. Very good point for Bournemouth.
I think I did back a draw in that game actually. I think I said 1-1. Now with Bournemouth Villa, Villa are a team that just wins every home game and then the rubbish away. They just seem to be a team that is just a home side. And Bournemouth have been alright. Bournemouth have done a good job against us. They picked up a Norway afterwards and they're getting those points in. Now they're getting that little spell in this season where they get a bunch of points and all of a sudden they crap again for a couple of months. So they're getting the job done now. It'll keep them up this season again. I think they're a bit fortunate because of the 3 newly promoted teams in Everton.
Yep.
But in a Bournemouth point of view, I think they'll come to be still.
Mm-hmm. And then next one, probably one of the games of the rounds as well, Chelsea versus Brighton. Absolute goal fest. Now, I did say beforehand I thought it would be a goal fest because Chelsea can't keep a clean sheet in Brighton. I'd went the wrong way around, so I'd went 3-2 to Brighton. It ended up finished 3-2 to Chelsea. So I think you called that one absolutely perfect, did you?
I believe so, if my memory tells me correct. In that game, I expected Chelsea to win, to be honest. Brighton's a team that has struggled with injuries. I was mentioning this quite a bit in the last episode. I think Brighton ever since lost like the Ferguson. I mean, these are big hitters. I think they haven't dealt with European football as well as they would have liked to. They've picked up a lot of injuries, a bit like Newcastle, but I think from their point of view, worse for them against Chelsea. Chelsea, other than Newcastle result, have actually been playing decently well. They've obviously got smashed at St James's Park, but the teams around them, the teams below them, I think they're more than good enough to beat them. So I think they're all having a better season. They're still not great, but I think they have improved from last year, which is for now at least a positive for them. But yeah, I was expecting them to beat Brighton.
Yeah, and then Liverpool-Fulham. Now, I had this 4-0. I'd got one half of it right with Liverpool's goals, but I'd never expected Fulham to score 3. Obviously, their keeper's out. How did you see that one as well?
I would have said 4-0 or 3-1, one of the two. I wouldn't have said 4-3. Fulham give it a great goal. I mean, considering as well the Liverpool goals just scored 2 absolute screamers, and Fulham have got back into the game. And I mean, sometimes you watch a game, it's at 85th minute, you're winning 3-2, it's the 87th minute, and you're 4-3 down. I mean, it's mental. They conceded 2 goals in 1 minute. It's a big blow for them after had a pretty good game. Yeah. Liverpool are just a team that grinds up results. Even if they have an off day, they still score a bunch of goals and they still win the game, which is why they're on the title race this season. I've been quite impressed with them. They're a team that seems to be up for it, especially after last season as well. With being able to finish below Newcastle, they're not messing around this time. They're making sure that that's not happening again.
Yeah, I mean, we'll touch on it more when we look at this round of fixtures as well, but that's probably a concern, the Liverpool keeper, that they're leaking goals without him as well. So next is West Ham Palace. So I went for 0-0, so I got 1 point right because I got it right with the draw, but it was a score draw. Ended up 1-1.
I think I got that one correct, actually. I was expecting a draw in the game. I mean, Paris, West Ham, just that sort of match where just nothing was going to happen in it. Both teams have been kind of hit and miss this season. I think Palace are still doing decently well considering they've lost their heart. They got a 76-year-old manager. They're still doing a decent job. They'll comfortably stay up. West Ham, of course, are a good team now. Won the Conference League, a team that's doing decently well in the Europa League as well. The problem being is that there's just not much in the game. I just felt like this weekend they just have an off one. I think the 2 teams are quite similar to each other, and it was just one where it just clashed together. It didn't really work well. Both teams be disappointed with that one, I think, but I think West Ham probably be a bit more disappointed.
Yeah, and then the last one, which was a Super Sunday, absolute super special game, Man City versus Spurs. Now, I went for a comfortable 2-0 result for Man City, given Spurs' injuries and suspensions and stuff that they've got, but it finished 3-3. It could have went either way, and the talking point for this one was the referee blowing the whistle the last minute, stopped Man City getting what could be a winner. How did you see that one as well?
Well, I thought the City were bad, actually. I think, especially this season, they've been horrible at the back. They leaked some really bad goals in their point of view. I think in another day, let's say that was last season, that would been a game that would just come to be win. But because of the fact that Ellison didn't do well for the first goal, his second goal was horrible defending. He was given the Celso space like that. It was ridiculous. Third goal was great by Tottenham, but City being kicked themselves over that. They should have had the game won before the incident at the end. And speaking of the Greenish situation, even though the referee shouldn't have blew it, there was a clear advantage. They clearly wanted to play on. I didn't think he was going to score that. I think he's way too far out. Chances are he could have got caught down by the defender. I don't think it's that clear and obvious that he would have got a clear chance. So maybe it would have happened. The referee shouldn't have done it, but at the end of the day, it potentially might not have been a deciding moment. Who knows what happened. So I don't think it's as bad as I made it out, and I think in a City point of view, they should have had the game won. I think they're going to get themselves to blame for not winning it.
Especially Haaland missing a couple of chances, very unlike him as well. He had a bit of an off game as well. So then touching on the Championship as well. So we'll not count these towards the totals when we do this every week. But Leeds versus Borough. So this was, I said 3-1. It was 3-1 within 15 minutes almost. So the actual score was 3-2. So 1 point for me on that one.
I went back to Leeds winning that one, but I didn't get the scoreline correct. So I don't know too much about Middlesbrough, I'll be honest, so I just had back to Leeds winning that one.
Yeah, one team that you do know a little bit about is Sunderland then. So next. So I went for a 1-0 win to Sunderland. I always try to think, come on, Sunderland, how I do well, but they were trailing for most of it. They got a goal that got them a point. How did you see that one as well?
I did back a draw, you know, I think I backed 1-1 as well, so I actually believe I got the scoreline correct. I haven't watched it, of course, but as far as I'm aware, I heard Sunderland got battered in the game and just scored a penny at the end. So it sounded like they got a bit lucky to get a point out of that one. But it seemed like this season they just don't seem to be anywhere near as good as they were last year. I think obviously Giallo was quite a big miss for them. But league-wise, it seems to be having quite a bit of a dip at the minute. So obviously good in our point of view, but for them, I don't know what it is with them, they just haven't been playing well.
Yeah, so we've got the week preview for this one as well. We'll be doing all of the points. Now, remember, if you're playing at home in the comments with this one, 0 points if you get neither the score or the result right, 1 point if you get the result right, and 3 points if you get the score and result. Anyone who does beat either of us will put it on screen the following week as well. So let's look ahead at this week's fixtures. Next up, we've got Wolves against Burnley. Now, Burnley had an absolute cruising 5-0 win as well. You'd imagine the tails are going to be up, but Wolves didn't have a bad result as well, 2-1 at Arsenal. How do you see this one going?
Well, I think the scoreline heavily flatters Burnley. They're not that good.
It's a red card as well.
They're the worst team in the league with 10 men, 5-0. So I don't think that's a sign of them performing better. This game, I expect Wolves to win 2-0, I would say. I think Wolves should, in their point of view, comfortably win the game, I would have thought.
Yeah, I went 2-1. I just fancy them. The tails will be up a little bit, Burnley. I think, obviously, that you're getting the 10 points deduction from Everton. They're going to see light at the end of the tunnel, so I think they'll be pushing rather than be defensive, and I can see them nicking 1 goal. But Wolves, I think, will have too much for them. I really rate Wolves this season. I think they've had a fantastic start as well. So next, we've got Luton against Arsenal. Now, this is 2 teams at the opposite ends of the table. Can you see anything other than a massive win for Arsenal? Free scoring Arsenal at the minute. Scored a load of goals again last week.
I will see if I'm right, but I've got a feeling they'll not be as high scoring as you think. I think it'll be quite a close game, but I think Arsenal will edge it 1-0. I think Luton will give it a good fight, but ultimately Arsenal are just too good for them, and I think eventually they'll break them down. Yeah,
I think for me, a lot of this is going to depend on team selection. So one of the issues that we've got while looking at our predictions this week is this is a midweek game. A lot of teams might rotate and stuff like that, so it's hard to necessarily pick this week without knowing the teams. But for me, I went for a comfortable 5-0 win to Arsenal. I think they'll absolutely demolish them. Even if they fetch in secondary players, the Arsenal secondary players are just as good as the first team almost. So I think a lot of them will have a point to prove, whether it's Nketiah or whoever. So I think 5-0, massive win. 4-5, but I'll go for 5. Next, we've got Brentford versus Brighton. Now, this is probably a tricky one to call, this one. I've went for 1-1. I think Brentford will concede. Like I said last week, I think their defence is terrible. I think they're always like elite goals in. Brentford as well, I think they're going to pick up a goal, just the way that they're playing. So I've went for 1-1. How do you see that one?
Probably agree with the 1-1 to be honest, but I'll pick a different scoreline to be
honest. No, you can go if you want, but
I'll back 2-1 Brentford, I'm going to say. I think Brentford, if any team's going to win the game, it'll be there. I think Brighton are just completely off it at the minute. Obviously, Brentford will be a bit more positive after beating Luton, so you would have thought that they'll try and pick some momentum going. I'll back a 2-1. I think it probably will be a 1-1, but I think that Brentford might just edge it.
Right, okay, I'll let you decide first on the next scoreline then. So Palace versus Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth got a respectable draw against Aston Villa, who are obviously really good at the minute, and Palace drew at West Ham. Score prediction for you first then?
0-0. I think it'll be a crap game. I think both teams are trying to break each other down or just cancel each other out. I think it'll be a horrible 0-0 draw.
Yeah, I've went for 2-0. I really rate Palace. I think that they're one of them that haven't really got the consistency figured out and that they're a bit all over the shop, but I would probably edge it more to them because they've got the home advantage. So I'll go 2-0 for Palace in that one. Next, we've got Fulham versus Forest. Now, Fulham, they scored 3 goals at Liverpool, which is an absolute feat in itself, but they also shipped 4 in. Forest, they lost to Everton 1-0. How do you see that one as well? I'll let you get your score prediction in first for this one.
Fulham 1-0. I don't think it'll be that comfortable for them. I think the Liverpool game is just that sort of match where they've done well against a massive team, but I think against a team similar standard to them, I've got a feeling they'll not play as well. It's one of them sort of things. I think in the game itself, they probably will struggle somewhat. So I'm going back 1-0. I think Fulham might edge it.
Yeah, I went for 1-0, but I'll do the same as you did before. I'll do the gentleman's agreement and I'll change it. So I'll go for 2-1. I do think Fulham are probably likely to score a couple of goals from from the weekend. I think their tails will be up, sort of thing, especially their strikers. They'll have loads of confidence. So I'll go 2-1 for that one then. Versus Man City. Now, this is a top four affair here. Two big teams this season going against each other. So City have dropped a lot of points recently, picked up a couple of draws. They drew again at the weekend against Tottenham. How do you see this one going as well?
I think Aston Villa won 3-1. I actually think they'll get a really good scoreline against them. Like City will struggle. I think the pressure yesterday actually drawn to Tottenham. I think it's going to be something that's in the back of the mind. Villa's a team that's in form. They play extremely well at home. And this sort of fixture, the fans be up for, the players be up for. I think they're better City. I think they win 3-1. I think City will really struggle. Wow,
I mean, you deserve the 3 points if you call that one right. So there's a couple of talking points for this one then. So Rodri picked up a yellow card in the Man City game, so he's going to be out of this fixture. Now, for me, he's what makes them tick. I know everyone says about De Bruyne and people like that, but for me, whenever you see Rodri not play for City, they almost capitulate. They're not. They're a top 6 team rather than an elite team. So Villa as well. Watkins, he was injured out for the last game. He came on, lasted the full 90 minutes because he scored in the 90th minute as well. So I've went 2-0 City. I think even without Rodri, I think they'll probably give Calvin Phillips a chance. He'll have to prove his point if he wants in that City team, which it doesn't look like. No matter what he does, he's going to get in. I've went 2-0 for City. I think it'll be not as comfortable as the scoreline predicts, but I'll go 2-0. And then we've got Spurs against West Ham. So Spurs obviously got a massive draw against Man City. West Ham drew at Palace. How do you see this one going?
Well, you would think Tottenham are going to surely get a win. I think eventually after all the games been losing and drawing. It'll be interesting actually because of course that's our game on Sunday as well against Tottenham, so it'll be fascinating to see how they do against West Ham. I'd expect Tottenham doing 3-1, 4-1. I'll back 3-1 to be more realistic. I think Tottenham will not steamroll West Ham, but I think they will have a comfortable enough time. I think it's probably a little bit too much for West Ham, especially with all the games going on for them. So I think Tottenham will finally get some momentum going and get their flow back into the gear, and I think they'll shove an okay time against them.
Yeah, I think the Spurs win as well. What numbers and stuff, I don't know, but I'll go 2-1. I think Son will get a brace for that one. West Ham will get some sort of goal. But very close affair, that one. Obviously a London derby almost. Right, so let us know your predictions as well if you're playing along at home. Remember, we went through the points before. Get your scores in before the first game kicks off if you want to be counted. It has to be on YouTube as well, on Northeast Updates YouTube channel. Click below in the comments and let us know. Can you beat a couple of YouTubers? Let's find out.